great talent.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Please, my name is Minister Aubrey Townsend. I work for the Church of Reconcile. I do an intervention group there, the Church of Reconcile. I'm a recovering person who God has blessed me to be in this order of recovery. Carrying the message of hope to the city of Birmingham. I was actually coming out of prayer, Christian prayer of my faith. Glad to be here to thank y'all for inviting us. Pray. So prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as I understand God. Praying for the power of His will and the knowledge to carry it out as a power. And the Father, I just want to thank you, Heavenly Father, for allowing us to be here. Thank you for the love, the death, the burial, and resurrection of your Son, Jesus Christ, that we have eternal life. We just want to give you honor and glory and praise for us being here today for what you have done for us, in spite of ourselves. And the Father, I just want to thank you, Heavenly Father, for what we have about to follow upon, Heavenly Father, in the grace of all our unity and ideas and the city and differences we have, Heavenly Father, that we can be blessed, Heavenly Father, come to some mutual agreements, to work together, Heavenly Father, and create a dialogue that we can be blessed with. In Jesus' name. Just want to thank you, Heavenly Father, for all the solutions that we will be able to come up with, yoke to break, mechanisms that we will use, Heavenly Father. We just want to give you all of our glory and praise, and believe this in Jesus' name by faith. Amen.
Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Normally, our nationalist brother Tikkun al-Shabazz would open us up with a nationalist prayer, a prayer that was said during the Haitian Revolution, but today I'm going to be saying a nationalist prayer. And so, we would just great God, who created the earth, created the sun that gives us light, who holds up the oceans, who makes the thunder roar. Our God, who has ears to hear us. Though hidden in the clouds, you watch over us. You see that the Caucasians have made us suffer so much. The Caucasian commands us to do filth and indecency, and commands us to do crimes. But our God within wants us to do something morally righteous for ourselves. Our God is so good, so just. He orders us to reclaim our own. He will direct our path and grant us total victory over the hypocrite and disbelieving people. He will assist us with our ancestors' spirit. Throw away the image of the white man's God and listen to the inner voice of freedom. Peace and blessings, brothers and sisters.
How's everybody today? Fine, sir. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out. My name is Brother John Muhammad. I am also part of the Half Day Coffee Party. Half Day Coffee Party is part of a few groups that are sponsoring this national tour. If you do not know what the name of the program today is, it's the National Town Hall Tour of Integration Has Failed. And we are in the beautiful city of Birmingham, Alabama. the beautiful Civil Rights Institute, Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, right across the street from the 16th Street Church, where 4 little black girls were bombed by the KKK with 15 sticks of dynamite in 1963. Isn't that amazing that we're doing this integration as failed town hall meeting right across the street where Dr. Martin Luther King said that was the most horrific act of terrorism there ever was. Amazing, isn't it? Things come full circle, don't they? Well, welcome. I'd like to welcome you. Sit back, relax. You're going to hear a powerful program, especially from the the national representative, national spokesperson, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Sister Dr. Ava Muhammad. I'd like to welcome you, Dr. Ava Muhammad, and your husband, Darius, your daughter, Sherelle. I'd like to also welcome and thank Southern Regional Minister Sharif Muhammad from Atlanta, Mosque number 15 for coming. Thank you, sir, and your staff. And the local minister, Tremont Muhammad, and Reverend Aubrey. Thank you so much for coming out. You could have been anywhere in the world at this time if you decided to come here. Really want to thank you and appreciate you. Now, there's a thing that we do during this time. We've done this is our 5th one? 6th one that we've done all across the United States. We did the first one in Baton Rouge. We did also Washington, D.C. at Howard University and a few other places. There's a thing that we say during this program, and it goes like this here. How much more integration can the black community bear? Your response would be, no more. You can't take it. No more. No more. It's killing us. Let's try it one time. How much integration can the black community bear? No more. It's killing us. One more time. How much more integration can the black community bear? No more. It's killing us. Got it. So all during the program, that question will come up, and that will be your response. So we'd like to also thank each and every one of you for coming, participating. Go on Facebook, tweet on Twitter, respond, tell people about the Hot Black Coffee Party. And I'll give you a little background on the Hot Black Coffee Party. This is our mission statement. The mission statement of the Hot Black Coffee Party. 1, to bridge the gap between social activism, political activism, and economic activism. 2, to study, improve, and motivate black thought. Now I want to stop there for one moment. We have a book which was written by our illustrious Dr. Ava Muhammad called The Study Guides. No. Minister Farrakhan wrote it, but you took the dictation. Yes. That's not about right. Let's clear that up. She didn't write it. She took the dictation. Now, this is what I'm telling you we need to improve and motivate black thought. That's right. Every answer you ever want to any question is in here. Get this book. You will be motivated, and your thought process will improve so that you can make your place, your home, a safe and decent place to live, and your neighborhood a safe and decent place to live. It is called Self-Improvement, the Basis for Community Development, and this book is Study Guide 1 through 9, Volume 1, by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Number 3, to electrify, revitalize, and resurrect black pride and decency among our people. 4, to create a black empowerment movement. And 5, to relieve our people of the burden of feeling compelled to comply with integration. How much more integration can the black community bear?
No more.
No more. It's killing us. How much more integration can the black community bear?
No more. It's killing us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And now we will start our program. The National Black Anthem will now be sung by Sister Noel. You got the floor, Sister.
Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Brothers and sisters, I'd like to thank you all for coming, and I'd like to thank Brother Student Minister Tremont for allowing me to be a part of this great presentation. I received my assignment from him yesterday, and he said that he wanted me to talk on integration and black business. And to try to prepare for this talk, I needed some help. So I called my best friend who taught me black history at the University of Alabama in Birmingham, but he also worked for years at this institute cataloging civil rights stories and wrote 2 books from it, Dr. Horace Hunter. And when I called him, Dr. Hunter said, "I'll call you back." I called the editor of the black newspaper, Ed Wright, and he said, "Brother William, go to Google." So finally I called my second best friend, Richard Finley, and he told me, he said, "All you got to do is go look at 4th Avenue. And I said, "Man, that's good advice." Right. So that's all I have for you. I wanted to have the statistics and how many businesses it was before and all that sociological stuff, but I guess I got to stick with history. See, 4th Avenue. Now I'm going to begin with the history, and I was, just want to be brief. But you are sitting right here. 4th Avenue, for those of you who don't know, it was the business district for the black community. Before integration. Listen. You're sitting right here with Dr. A.G. Gaskell, a millionaire black man, once reputed to be the richest black man in America. This was the place that he had his first funeral home right on this land, where the Institute City. I think he either gave the land or sold the land to the city for the Civil Rights Institute. So I just want to say I was born in Birmingham in 1952. In Birmingham, we had segregation by law. What that meant was, I lived where I live now in a place called Sherman Heights. And right through the middle of the community, Inslee, if you stayed on one side, if you stayed above 20th Street, if you stayed on 21st Street and above, that was by law zone white. If you stayed on 19th Street and below, by law, that was zone black. You have heard of Bull Connor. Yes, if you bought a house or if you went over there and moved, Bull Connor would come and arrest you for violating the city zoning law.
Right.
Oh, think about that.
The first traumatic experience I had in my life was that I was a little boy. I don't even remember how old I was, but I could go back to that point where I asked my grandmother, who was standing on the bus stop getting ready to go to the white woman's house in Fairfield to be her maid, and she was taking me with her. And I told her I wanted some ice cream from a place that was called Puro Ice Cream. I don't know if anybody here from here, but y'all know that place better as the Ice House, because later on they started selling beer and wine. So when I was a little boy, they sold ice, but they also, they had an ice cream place right in front. So I told my grandma I want to go and get some ice cream. The first traumatic incident I had in my life, my grandmama took me in there, and the white lady, it was looking all nice. It was looking like Happy Day. They were dressed all sharp. And we walked up, and the lady told my grandmother, said, "Hon, we don't serve colors in here. You have to go around to the other side." My grandma pulled me out, and I was saying, "How come I can't get my ice cream, Mom?" And we went around the other side. It was dirty in there, with trucks in there, boxes in there, and they had a hole in the wall. And they handed us the ice cream through that. That was in the 50s. And, we've always believed that the white man's ice is better than the black man's ice. But we have to realize that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught that we can't integrate, because inside of the word integration is the word integrate, which means a whole.
Go ahead.
And if you ever if you can bring 2 whole things together, it'll integrate, it'll become something different.
Listen.
2 plus 3 equals 5.
Right.
But if you bring 2 plus a half together, it's going to be 2 and a half. It ain't going to be integrated.
Go ahead.
So, Dr. Gaston became rich, and like I said, this is where he had the first office. He sold peanuts out at TCI, same place my dad worked and my granddad and my uncles worked. He sold peanuts, and from that he saw that a lot of times people would come and try to raise money for people who had died. So he started a burial society. That burial society, he eventually had to turn and buy its own funeral home. It became Smith and Gaston.
Right.
And it was in Fairfield. He moved it right here. This was his first operation. After he started making some money, Dr. Gaston decided, like any other Negro at that time, that he could afford to buy a Cadillac. So he was going to go buy a Cadillac. And when he went to the banker told him, say, Arthur, you're making enough money with that burial society, you don't need no Cadillac. I will help finance you to start your own insurance company. That started Booker T. Washington Insurance Company.
Wow.
When Dr. Gaston started Booker T. Washington Insurance Company, he realized that he didn't have no Negroes who knew how to work in it. So right across the street is the building where he had the business card. Booker T. Washington business card. Empty now.
That's the
Empty.
history. Empty now. Oh,
Because of integration.
Lord. Go
He
ahead.
trained black people to be able to work in office.
Business people.
And to do business. And eventually Dr. Gaston did so well that he formulated Citizen Federal Bank in 1954. First black bank in the state of Alabama.
Listen.
Okay, that's sold. That's gone.
So gone.
Citizen Trust out of Atlanta.
Right.
And I don't mean to publicly disparage them because I'm trying to work with them, but it's like a tomb. It's like a tomb in there because y'all take y'all money to regions and Amsterdam and all these other places.
The white man.
So eventually Dr. Gaston bought Wynn Radio Station. Wynn Radio Station gone now. This
Gone.
White folks bought it up. You don't even know what Wynn is.
Hotel. How about the hotel?
He bought the Zion Memorial Garden because if he was doing the funeral home business, he had to bury people.
That's right.
It's in the state of disrepair. He had a real estate company right across the street. If you go out there, you got Citizen Drugs.
Right.
Gone now.
Right. Gone.
He had drugs before black people could buy
Go
drugs
ahead.
from their own. All that's gone. And then as Brother said, right next door is the Gaston Motel where he let Dr. King and Dr. Abbott and them stay for free while they were playing in the 63. It's sitting there empty now. The city owns it.
Right.
And the city is talking about turning it into a museum. But at the time he built it in the 50s, black people could not go to the Holiday Inn. You wasn't allowed in there. I don't care if you had money. But it's been empty for 20 or 30 years. So that's what I mean by the effect of it. And I want to close on this note. On 4th Avenue, where my friend Richard Finley told me, said, well, all you got to do is go down 4th Avenue and look at all the stuff that's gone. That's all you got to talk about. We got 2 movie theaters. They used to be the black movie theaters, the Carver and the Fame.
Yes,
Gone.
Gone.
Gone. We had restaurants all up and down 4th Avenue. Gone.
Add it up.
We had
Add it
grocery
up.
stores. Gone. We got the Masonic Temple still sitting there empty.
Empty.
The man who was on Dr. Gaston's board at the bank, S.J. Bennett, was one of the most powerful black men in Alabama. We had doctors, dentists, lawyers, all had offices in that building. That's where we went to see our black doctors before integration, our black dentists. That building is sitting there empty. Now, gone. So we had Davis Service Station on the corner, 2 blocks over. That's where Angela Davis' daddy had a gas station.
Come on.
Gone, empty lot.
Empty.
We had, I don't know if Brother Corday is here, but we had Townsend Shed. And Brother Corday's uncle owned it. It was sitting right on the corner of this building. And he owned that then. And then we had the 4th Avenue gas station down by the freeway. A black man owned the gas station right off the freeway. Gone.
Gone.
He gone.
He gone.
It's gone. That's
Gone.
what integration did. So I close on this note. Integration equals the white man's ice.
Ooh. Go ahead. Go ahead. All praise.
Yes, sir.
In the name of Allah, beneficent and merciful, we give God praise and we give Him thanks for His goodness and His mercy. The greatest of thanks, goodness, and mercy is His word.
that he sends through the mouth of his prophets to guide man and woman back to the straight path whenever we go astray. They say that Islam is the most ecumenical religion, which means that we don't put one prophet or one servant or one messenger of God over another to say that one is greater than the other. We thank Almighty God, who is the sender of all prophets,
Yes, sir.
who is the revealer of all truth. But as a black man in America, not only do I thank Almighty God for Moses and the Old Testament,
Yes, sir.
for Jesus and the New Testament. What?
Come on.
Stop right there. Because the enemy told you all that Muslims don't believe in Jesus.
That's right.
But did you know that our headquarters mosque in Chicago is named after the mother of Jesus?
Yes, sir.
So somebody lied to you to keep you away from us.
That's right.
So we thank Allah for Jesus and the New Testament. And we thank him for Prophet Muhammad and the Holy Quran. And we say peace be upon these worthy servants of Almighty God. However, I can never thank Allah enough for his merciful intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Father Muhammad. And we give him praise and we give him thanks for his wise choice of his messenger, Messiah, to us, a black man that you may hear a little bit about today, that the world does not know enough about, but you will soon know about.
That's right.
We're talking about a black man born right next door in the Red Clay state of Georgia, who did what no other black man did before him or since. And he had the hardest job of anybody that ever lived, and that was to resurrect the dead black man and woman in America.
Yes, sir.
We thank Almighty God, Allah, for the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I can never thank Allah enough, because when the honorable Elijah Muhammad physically departed from us, I was not even born yet. So he allowed people like me and people like you to get another chance.
Go ahead.
You ever been in school and you had a chance to take an open book test? Now, if you flunked the open book test, there's something going on. But we got another chance with our brother, our friend, and the best friend that we have. The best defender
Yes, sir.
of not only the black man and woman in America, but all oppressed people across the planet.
That's right.
He is our brother. He is our friend and teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It is in their names that I greet you in the greeting words of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum. It's a prayer that means peace be unto you. I know you said that's a long introduction, long salutation, but it's absolutely necessary. Now, as I prepare to bring up our special guest for today, I want to start by asking you to give the most important person in this room a warm round of applause, and that's you. Give yourselves a warm round of applause. You gotta set the tone right. I gotta make sure that you're right when Sister Minister Ava starts. So if you don't like you, she don't stand a chance. So y'all kind of clapping like you don't really like yourself. But I said give the most important person in the room. That's right. I want to tell you first and foremost, relax. It's okay. I know that you have rarely come to a place and you get checked, and then somebody comes and tells you, have a seat and don't sit where you want to sit, don't sit right there. But it's okay. Relax. You are in the safest place in Birmingham.
Go ahead.
You say, well, why would we have a check procedure? Because when you tell the truth, truth is not popular in a world like this. Right. So we have to make sure that we are safe and that we are secure. Right. And that we don't have no Dylan roof that creeps up in here. If Dylan roof try to creep up in here, it ain't going to end too well.
Go ahead.
Right. For him.
Absolutely.
So I want you all to make yourselves at home. Be safe, be secure, and realize that you are in the best place that you can be in the city of Birmingham right now, because we are blessed and we want to welcome our student national spokesperson. That's right. And I could tell you a lot about her, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. I could say that she, got her law degree from Georgetown Law Center. I could tell you that she was, a member of the New York Bar Association and part of the prosecutor's office. And for Negroes, that's a big deal. That's right. You're real impressed. But the best thing that I can tell you about her is she is a principal helper of the man of God on the side. whatnot, but know for sure today, her number one security, her
Go ahead.
number one provider, standing right there, and that's our brother, her husband, Brother Darius Muhammad. Thank you. Also want to thank her daughter that came here today. I don't see her, but I know she's right here. Somewhere up there she is. Thank you, my sister, for traveling with your mother, and she is really her chief assistant.
Yeah.
Says Sister Boss. Says Sister Minister, hey, are you gonna need any water? She said, yeah, she's gonna need some. She said, I guess so.
That's right.
All praises due to
Well, we're here today for a very serious reason. We are in Birmingham, Alabama, which is the home of integration. And we have been taught, we have been, what's that thing that they call when they program your mind?
Socially engineered.
Socially engineered. Thank you. And I also want to thank Brother Lewis, who is the one that called me, that really put a lot in to make this program happen. He's done it in several cities. He's done it in several cities around the South and the East Coast, but this one is going to be special. I'll tell you why. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan asked Sister Minister Ava to do a series of panel discussions on separation. See, when you tell Negroes separation, we think segregation. But separation and segregation are two totally different things. Don't get upset when you hear the word separation, because hell, we already separated. We just have not declared our independence.
Go ahead.
So we brought our sister down today so that she can have an interactive discussion, because see, you really don't have a problem with separation, you really just want to know how.
Right.
So Brother Lewis is going to ask her a series of questions, and then we're going to open up the microphone. And feel free to come up, and you have the opportunity to ask our sister questions. Now, Sister Minister Ava is a world-renowned traveler. She is an author, published author. As I said, she is the national spokesperson of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And she holds the distinction of being the first female minister placed over a mosque, not just in the Western Hemisphere, but on earth. Not only was she placed over a mosque in 1998, but she was placed over an entire region. So for all of you to come with that Farrakhan and sexist stuff, that's the picture. And that's the proof. Now, that is not the case. That's kind of late to have a female, over a mosque. Well, let me say this. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that in the 30s he had female ministers. Most of his male ministers. That's right. But for those that say that, wait a minute, I can take you right down the street, and there's some Baptist churches who not only won't allow a female to teach, she can't even stand in the pulpit. Listen. So we're happy to have our sister here, because this is walking history right before your eyes. Now, and before I bring her up, I want to tell you all to come out tomorrow, because there is a professional introduction, but there is also a spiritual introduction. See, somebody in the room right now is sick. Somebody in the room right now is suffering from diabetes or cancer.
That's right.
But I'm going to tell you tomorrow what kind of survivor you are looking at and how she was healed.
Right.
Without the hands of a doctor. So if you want to hear about that, you come out tomorrow. But for now, let's welcome our sister, the national spokesperson for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
to whom all praise is forever due. We thank him for raising in our midst the one we now know to be the promised Messiah of the Scripture, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I thank them both for their representative, the man in our midst who's the embodiment of your mercy on us as a people, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I greet you again. Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, it's such an honor and pleasure to be here. And Student Minister Tremont did such an exquisite job of greeting and expressing appreciation to all who made this possible. I just came over from the Southern Regional Headquarters Mosque in Atlanta, Georgia, number 15, and I'm just so honored and humbled that I was accompanied by brothers and sisters from there, including our Southern Regional Minister, the regional representative, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Student Minister Abdul Sharif Muhammad, our Student Regional MGT Captain, Regional Protocol Director, Sister Severe, she's here somewhere. The Vanguard is here. And it is just an honor and pleasure to, I can't name everyone, but they know that I'm grateful to all of them. And as Brother Tremont said, most of all, to all of you. And of course, Brother Louis Ali, he calls into my Blog Talk radio show that I have every Thursday night on blogtalkradio.com, Elevated Places. And he is such an advocate of separation. We call him the separator.
Go ahead.
And I will be honest with you, my husband and I both, this is what really attracted us to the Nation of Islam.
Absolutely.
Both of us, and we did not know each other coming in, but when we met each other and realized that the attracting power of the Nation of Islam was really the desire to be among our own, is with our own.
Wow.
And you know, beloved, it is not natural. As much as I respect our brothers and sisters who are out here in the streets, but it is not the nature of man to be in a perpetual state of protest.
Right.
Go ahead.
Protest is a stage of development that any living organism is capable of engaging in to protect itself as it grows into the ability to function independently. The very nature of protest, beloved, means we are without power.
That's
Right.
right.
Wow. Go ahead.
The most effective protesters on this planet are babies.
That's right.
Go ahead.
I heard Minister Farrakhan say, babies are not humble.
No, sir.
Because it's amazing how Allah, God, whether you know him as Allah, God, Jehovah, Christ, it's awesome how he balances everything. And every creature has capabilities that it has strengths that make up for his weaknesses. So infants come out and they're completely dependent, but what they do possess is the power to completely disrupt the environment.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And make life a living hell for everyone in it until their needs are met.
Go ahead.
Children have that power. In fact, behavioral scientists have found that it takes approximately 9 times of intense demand from the child before the parent yields. I want that popsicle.
Right.
I want it. And finally, just to quiet him down, he gets the popsicle. Well, that's the nature of protest. Its trait is to agitate, to disrupt. Now, there's a season for that.
Go ahead.
For any developing people.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
for us, that season has come and gone. It has come and it has gone. It served its purpose, and we thank God for those of our parents and those before us who went out and laid their lives
Right.
on the line so that we could sit in this beautiful edifice today.
That's right.
But that is not God's goal for you. His goal for you is to fulfill your creative purpose. And when you are engaged in a perpetual cycle of protest, you can't think creatively.
Right.
You can't come up with ideas of how to cure illnesses.
Wow.
Or how to master languages, or build bridges, or clean out the lakes and the oceans, or produce clean, healthy food, because we're laying on a sidewalk somewhere.
Wow.
And the effect of that on our children becomes detrimental when it outlasts its season.
Right.
So protest is out of season, and I can prove it in no limit of time. It's ineffective.
Right.
How many young black men, young black women, brothers, sisters are going to be gunned down by the local arm of the U.S. military called the police department?
Go ahead.
That's right.
We are told by our weaker leadership, oh, you need body cams. So we got the body cams. Now we get to watch our people being killed in HD. And it does not result in justice. Antoine Rose, a baby to me, 16, 17 years old, Antoine Rose,
Wow.
shot in the back by the Pittsburgh police.
That's right. He's back.
He is under the ground.
Right.
His life is over. His family is devastated because each time one of us is killed like that, you devastate a family.
Right.
You devastate a community.
That's right.
And now our children are being orientated to a life where they're wearing T-shirts at the age of 12 that say R.I.P.
That's right.
I grew all the way up to an adult and never knew anyone that was shot to death.
Wow.
Go ahead.
I
Listen.
never knew anyone getting locked up.
Wow.
I'm like Brother William, I grew up in the 50s and 60s in Columbus, Ohio. My father's mother grew up in Aniana, Alabama.
Go ahead.
She was raped at the age of 13 by a member of what we're finding through this DNA ancestry tracing was a member of the Hewlett family of Hewlett-Packard. These multinational corporations were able to come into existence from our parents picking cotton
Go ahead.
and tobacco and in the rice fields and building homes and sewing clothing and teaching white people how to eat with a fork and spoon. Because while they were in the caves of Europe, we were kings and queens. Our children were playing with diamonds and talking around. So it is time to accept our role. What is our sacrifice?
This is
Good question. Good.
We're not picking cotton. We're not undergoing what Emmett Till suffered, the terror that he suffered as a 14-year-old. But because we have rejected Allah's messenger, Jehovah raised up Moses. This ain't the first time at the road.
Go ahead.
That's right.
It is not as though we don't have a base in Scripture, both in the Holy Quran and the Bible, for what is happening now.
Right.
And so our rejection of this doesn't emanate from an absence of intelligence, an absence of logic. It's just outright rebellion
Go ahead.
against the will of God.
That's right.
Killer Mike said, and we love our brother, but brother, to say black people aren't ready
That's right.
to separate. First of all, God don't care if you're ready.
Teach that.
Whoa, listen now. Whoa.
He's not having us vote.
That's right.
He doesn't have a separation committee.
Teach that.
He doesn't have a separation commission to research the viability.
Amen.
He said, come out of her, my brother.
That's right.
America is slated for destruction. You can take it or let it alone. You can pretend that all that is going on, culminating in the election of Donald Trump, which proves this country's going down.
Go ahead.
When you put somebody like that
Go ahead.
in the seat of leadership.
Wow.
So even if you take the issue of their history out of it, we're not saying to hate white people. We're saying you need to get away from them because they're going down. And it's dangerous to be around them at this time. Now, July 4th, in a few days, white folks are celebrating the Declaration of Independence. Those of us that want to emulate them, well, they did this. This is what they wrote, and this is written almost exclusively by Thomas Jefferson. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect for the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad declared those causes. On the back of the Muhammad Speaks and now the Final Call newspaper, he answers the question, what do the Muslims want?
Listen.
We want freedom, a
Listen.
full and complete
Complete
freedom.
freedom.
I'm asking you, do we have that?
No.
We want justice, equal justice under the law. Have we been given justice?
No, not at all.
Number 3, we demand equality. And we want equality for everyone, regardless to class, creed, or color. Has that been achieved?
No, not at
How
all.
long have we been here?
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
4 centuries.
Listen.
13 generations.
That's right.
So separation is number 4 of the Muslim program. It goes into action after you've been denied 1, 2, and 3.
That's right. That's right.
Point number 4. We want our people in America whose parents or grandparents were descendants of slaves
That's right.
to be allowed to establish a separate state or territory of their own, either on this continent or elsewhere. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to provide such land, and that each area must be fertile and minerally rich. We believe that that our former slave masters are obligated to maintain and supply our needs in this separate territory for the next 20 to 25 years until we are able to produce and supply our own needs. Then he states the cause. Since we cannot get along with them in peace and equality, after giving them 450 years of our sweat and blood, and receiving in return some of the worst treatment human beings have ever experienced, we believe that our contributions to this land and the suffering forced upon us by white America justifies our demand for complete separation in a state or territory of our own.
Wow.
Now, in that Declaration of Independence of white America, they're not only declaring the reasons, when you read it in depth, why the 13 original colonies decided to separate from the British and became the United States of America. But their reasons, as Minister Farrakhan stated on the Time and What Must Be Done series, he said those reasons are universal.
That's right.
And we have the same reasons today. And so, beloved, what we want to talk about this afternoon is beginning the methodology of that process. Minister Farrakhan said, and we know it's true, separation is a process. We're not going to just get up and leave here and there's a boat waiting outside.
Right.
Nor are we interested in that. You know
Right.
why?
Come on.
Because he said, November 16th, in Washington, D.C., to Donald Trump. Minister Farrakhan.
Listen.
I don't know if you heard the breaking news. He said
Listen.
to Donald Trump, and you should go and listen
That's right.
to that press conference. He said, we will take 8 states.
Come on. Wow.
8 states.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
One of them has to be where we stand.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
We want our country back. You know what? We want our planet.
Go ahead.
You want America to be great again? We want the earth to be good again. We want to be of the righteous. And we can't be that living under Satan. We can't. So these 8 states that he declared that we would take, don't you find it interesting, beloved, that Donald Trump, who has 0 self-control,
0.
and who
Go.
argues and fights with private citizens in America on Twitter. He argues with regular John Q. public. He argues with comedians,
Right.
singers,
Listen.
actresses, other politicians.
No limits. No
He
limits.
calls people filthy names. He's up at 3 a.m. tweeting people. He had a big, long argument with the brother whose son is in the NBA. Alonzo Ball.
Ball.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the man said, because they went over to Japan and they shoplifted. See, this is why these teachings of the Honorable
Yes, ma'am.
What are
Listen.
we doing? What are you doing?
That's right.
Listen.
But understand, when you go in other countries,
Go ahead.
they're not like America,
No.
Listen.
where there's no moral standard.
Right.
And we may not think much of you grabbing some shoes from somewhere. Go over in a Muslim country and do that. You won't have any hands left. But when you go in these Asian countries, they're serious. They're going to lock you up for that.
Right.
So the U.S. government got the young brothers out and brought them back. And Trump goes on Twitter attacking Alonzo Ball because he said, you didn't thank me.
Right.
So my man said, why would I thank you?
Right.
First of all, my son did that, not me. Okay? And secondly, if you'd flown him back on Air Force One, I'd have been impressed. So this is the president, the commander-in-chief of the most powerful nation on the earth, arguing with the father of a young athlete. So my point is, he takes on everybody. He takes on Saturday Night Live, Alan Baldwin, whatever, Hillary Clinton, whoever. But then Minister Louis Farrakhan comes to Washington at the Watergate Hotel and says, I'm talking to you.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay? And he says to Donald Trump, you are on the wrong course of action.
That's right.
You need to stop and you need to turn this around. And if you have any chance of delaying this judgment on you, we need to sit down and talk about what you're going to do for black people. And we'll start with these 8 states. We haven't heard of peace.
That's right.
I want you to think about that. We have, if you're in doubt about who Minister Farrakhan is, the fact that the biggest mouth in America has been silent.
Bully.
It
Bully.
hasn't said a word.
Biggest bully.
Personally, just to share my unwanted opinion, I think he wanted to answer him. And I think he was surrounded by people who have been around. And they said, don't you do it. They may even have rigged the systems so he thought he was treating him in a leave people alone. Okay? You do not know what you are dealing with. But I say this to you, beloved, and then we will open up for discussion. Brother Lewis, I think, is going to ask some questions. But it's not just you asking questions. We need your insight and your input. And I will say this, Minister Farrakhan already gave us some initiatives. If you go back to the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, and you go to his message at the Holy Day of Atonement, October 10th, 2015. And he called for 10,000 fearless men and women to make our own communities a safe and decent place to live. Now, one of those who went back to his city and his area and put that directive into action is sitting right there. Yes. Very quickly, the first step towards separating from your enemy is joining on to your own kind. Brother Sharif says, when you're doing for self, you are separated. The minister also called for the institution of an economic boycott against the retailers of this nation. Now, he launched it with the so-called Christmas holiday season of 2015. And if you look back and research it, it was very successful. You know, we spend $1 trillion a year in this economy. That's not our total assets. That's what we pour into the U.S. economy, and most of it is in the retail industry. Now, the problem is we tend to do something for a moment, and then we stop. He didn't tell us to stop. Don't just cut back on your impulse buying during the holidays, but cut back on your impulse. Correction, it wasn't Japan, it was China. And you really playing with fire when you go over in China.
Right.
Okay? Because you remember they sent that young white boy back in a coma.
Sure did.
Oh, you want him back? Here he is.
Yes.
In a coma that he never came out of.
Never did.
Now what you got to say? That's China. It's nothing to play with. But this withdrawal from impulse spending, you know who has the most cell phones? You know that, right?
Yeah.
You know who has the most smartphones in the country? It's consumer groups, you and I.
Yeah, come on.
Now, our youth don't have the disposable income that white youth have. In other words, their parents give them credit cards and money in their pocket. Ours don't have anything because you can't inherit a job.
Right.
That's right. That's right.
You can't. We abandoned. You heard Minister William run it down. When you have a business, you can pass your business to your children. And when you're the first Negro this and the first Negro that, come on. I was the first black assistant DA in Queens. I can't give that to Sherelle. It's a job. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they own businesses where we spend our money. You got Arabs and Indians and Asians in our community.
Right.
You molesting our young girls.
Go ahead.
And then at night, those bags of cash disappear into the night. They don't even think enough of us to put up a sign that's neat. There's no symmetry in the black community. When you open a business in a white community, which is a fantasy because you can't, the McDonald's and the nail place and all, they got all flow. Red brick, everything is smooth.
That's true.
You can take a chain grocery, you can take a Kroger, a Publix. It looks one way in our community and another way in their community. Because what we see outwardly reflects what we view, how we view ourselves inwardly. All right. So we're going to these Boost Mobile and Metro and Verizon. They're all in our community. Thousands of phone outlets. Thousands of beauty weave places and hair places. Thousands of them. Liquor stores. Abundance of those. McDonald's is there. Burger King, like my husband said, call everybody, tell them you made it. Okay? I'm in the black community. I'm on the Gold Coast. We're the outpost. Where they make all of their liquid and take it back and use it to buy real estate. All right? So the step one is to stop buying something because it's shiny and it's new. The iPhone 7, the iPhone 9, the iPhone 22. My Jordans, my phones, my this and that, my jeans. $200, $500.
Wow.
Some homosexual's name is on a purse.
That's right. Man.
Go ahead.
And that makes it, but you know what? Don't you say nothing about our young people.
Go ahead.
And how they selling out and they're materialistic. Because you and I sold out our future for a title, for a Cadillac, for a house, among some white people. So before they started shopping, you've been shopping. Then we got fired from the job. Because unless some benevolent Caucasian is in office or in Congress, we don't know what our condition is from day to day.
That's true.
Because we won't get up and do for self. We beg the mayor, the governor,
Go
the
ahead.
council, the police chief. Could you please do right by us? No, we need to do right by ourselves. You think the Chinese people care who the president is? You think that they care who just got elected? You see any police cruisers crawling around in Chinatown? Only in our community do they stalk us. So we withdraw our money. We're not saying don't buy anything, but stop running out every time we get $1 in our wallet and giving it away to a people that don't even respect us.
That's right.
We have to learn how to do well with our essentials until we get our own.
That's right.
That's right.
People come here from other countries, there'll be 11 of them in an apartment.
Absolutely.
Everything
In the business.
And they all come to that nail salon.
That's right.
Sisters, we can't do our own nails ourselves.
They can do
We
it.
can't do our hair.
That's right.
If you want to get hair, can't you get it for somebody black? Can't we do business with China?
Go ahead.
That's right.
America don't make no flat screens.
That's right.
No, America manufactures nothing. America is a big parasite, a blood sucker. So everybody she's getting her products from, we can get them from. Coffee is from Ethiopia. There's no coffee beans that grow nowhere white. All the coffee in the world is from Africa and South and Central America.
Wow.
They want to do business with you and I.
That's right.
The oil producing companies. China said they can make an automobile that is every bit as luxurious and technologically advanced as a high-grade, top-of-the-line Mercedes-Benz, and they'll sell it to you for $10,000.
Wow.
That's why Trump's trying to keep them out of here.
Right.
But that's all right, because they're buying up real estate. But you and I need to buy fewer commodities. I'm talking too long. When we can buy a safe and decent place to live, what does he mean by that? And what is Brother Sharif and the believers in Atlanta, what are they doing in this area that was drug infested?
Right.
And going block by block
Right.
to make it safe. Because the biggest excuse that the police have to be in our communities in the first place is the crime.
Right. That's true. That's true.
This child, Antoine Rose, is dead. Well, sometimes we need help. One of us or two of us, we have a lot of savagery in our community.
That's right.
And so we need for brothers to form security,
Go ahead.
okay, around our blocks.
Right.
And so when some woman is being beat up
Uh-huh.
by a man, he will be approached by men.
Go ahead.
No, sir, we don't do that here. You
Absolutely.
will have to go elsewhere. And if you refuse to go, you're going to have a problem.
Go ahead.
That's right. That's right.
Somebody out the street calling people MFs and big, excuse me, brother.
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
That's right.
No, sir.
No.
Woman walking down the street with nothing on.
That's right.
Excuse me. Man, you're going to have to go home and get dressed.
That's right.
Go ahead.
You know, in civilized society, there's something called indecent exposure.
Right.
You don't come out in civilized society with the cheeks. I don't mean these cheeks.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, ma'am. You got to go back in the house. Well, I don't have that. We have a place where we'll give you a skirt and a blouse. And we're not saying you got to have your eyes covered up. But sister, please.
That's right.
A nation can rise no higher than its woman. She's the first. No, you can't blow this chemical weed in our face. You can't do it. But guess what you can do in our community? You can have a 3-bedroom condominium that's affordable.
Right.
Do I have to be a Muslim? No. You just have to be your natural self.
That's right.
But what's that sound I hear? Here's your manual for the association, condominium association.
Amen. Jesus, Dr.
What's that sound? Well, that's just a call to prayer.
That's right. Jesus, Dr.
You're going to enjoy this immensely.
That's
But
right.
if the Caucasian's charging $3,000 a month, and we'll give you something better for $300 a month, I think you'll learn to upgrade.
Jump on that.
Money, luxury, good homes, friendship, and all. But the first thing we have to do, beloved, is rid our communities of this plague that is known as the police. Okay? Because we're not even safe walking down the street. You can't even be in your grandmother's backyard. Okay? You can't sit in a Starbucks. All right? You can't go in a restaurant. T.I., what's that restaurant? Houston. Very big, popular restaurant. They mistreated a black woman in that restaurant in Atlanta, and T.I. said, stay out of there. They're closed now. That's it. Let's move on to this. And thank you for your patience.
Let's give it up for Dr. Abelman. That was very powerful. We could almost go home now. But we want to start with where you said a nation can rise no higher than its woman.
Right.
And we both know that culture is like gravity. We don't necessarily see it, but it has an effect on everything. And we have noticed that under integration, black men don't seem as territorial and as protective of black women and children as they were even under slavery or segregation. Is there something that you could tell us to start with helping to motivate black men in particular to be more territorial? Is that something that sisters want to see in our communities?
Well, I'll just say briefly that Brother William pointed out from the minister about two holes, W-H-O-L-E, not being able to merge, that one is going to be complete and the other incomplete. And we lost our identity with this false hypocritical offer of integration. Because there is no such thing. It was never the intent of the founders of this nation that black people would be walking around among them, and black men marrying their women, and being elected president of the United States. That was not in their vision, because it's not natural. What happened when we attempted to integrate and we were given symbols of assimilation, we lost our sense of self. And when you are yourself, there are characteristics you display, there's behavior you engage in, and there are thoughts that you think when you are your natural self. A zebra does not think it's a lion.
That's right.
A lion does not think it's a frog. They all act in accord with the nature in which they were created. The black man is the original man of this planet.
Right. Go ahead.
He is the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, God, meaning force and power, of the universe. And so it's natural, when he knows that, for him to seek to reproduce himself. No man in his right state of mind wants to go in a woman, and what comes out of her is something other than a reflection of him.
That's right.
Teach.
That's right.
And that's the motive for men to protect women.
Absolutely.
That's what's in the DNA and in our genes. You protect your female by nature because she is the means of your immortality.
Right.
She is the means of your power and your ability to lay claim to territory. This is why Islam is fought by Caucasians. This is why Caucasian males characterize Islam as a terrorist religion. Because Islam teaches us that we fight with those who fight with us.
That's right.
The Holy Quran says there is life for you in retaliation.
Absolutely.
He mentioned, I think Brother Tremont mentioned Dylan Roof. Dylan Roof would never have come up in a Nation of Islam meeting on no day.
That's right.
No night. Okay? First of all, he wouldn't have made it past our outer perimeter. But if by some magic he did, do you think it's natural, beloved, for 9 people to be killed by one person?
That's right.
The only way that could have happened was a state of mind of those black people.
Absolutely.
These are good people in a Bible study. That's black folks. Generous, giving, forgiving, happy to see this white boy come in. And want to hear the word of the Bible. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, you don't know the nature of what you're dealing with. We don't hate anybody. We just want you to know what you're dealing with. There is no such thing as a white male ever respecting a black man's life or his woman.
Absolutely.
The U.S. Supreme Court held in the Dred Scott case that is still the law in reality, that the Negro has no rights, that the white man is bound to respect. The U.S. Constitution, beloved, is not the law of the land. White supremacy is the law of the land. And so when you are yourself, you can't come in our community and shoot Antoine Rose 3 times in the back and come out of there. You're not coming out.
That's right.
We're the only people where there'll be dozens of us standing around, and one of our women or children can be killed right in front of us. That's why the Bible calls us sheep. Because the sheep is the only animal on the face of the earth where a wolf can come in and grab a lamb and slaughter it and eat it right in front of his parents.
That's right.
Now, any other people go in Chinatown and kill a Chinese woman. There ain't gonna be no parades and protests. There ain't gonna be no lawsuits filed. You're just never gonna be seen again.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's
So
right.
that's my long answer.
No,
to that.
thank you. It's real good. And I see Brother Walton and Brother John, we're going to raise this question. How much more integration can the black community bear? I thought I was in Alabama. We're in the South. How much more integration can the black community bear? All right. Okay, Dr.
I'll do
Ava.
one more and then we'll open up.
Well, we want to, one question we want to ask is, our people were pushing toward economic equality. They were fighting for economic equality. And somehow the enemies of Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam infiltrated that black power movement and turned us away from economic equality toward social equality and renamed the movement an integrationist movement. Can you speak to the difference between integration versus economic equality?
Well, here's the thing. What enabled that to happen, we know it happened. But as you said, how was the effort to get us off economic equality successful? First of all, we know the motive for that. We are the economic foundation of America. This is why Minister Farrakhan is hated in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Because if we follow those teachings in mass, it will destroy their economy.
Absolutely.
If we stop filling ourselves with alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, buying junk and nonsense, that alone will all but ruin their community. But the reason they're able to do it and do it quickly is we carry a badge of black inferiority. That's what we have to be purged of. No matter how much we say black power, wear dashikis, go natural, and all of that,
That's right.
until we go deep into self and have what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad calls a thorough knowledge of self, then they can always tap that badge of black inferiority that made us desire nearness to white people more than we desired economic independence. That's how it happened.
If you would like to ask Dr. Ava Muhammad a question about integration, would you please come to the microphone? Come on. Where's Minister Tremont? Or make comments. This is an open discussion forum for you. We want your participation. Assalamu alaikum. Of course, you're welcome. Don't be shy.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Joshua Seals. Also went to my sister Abra and say it again.
Louis Ali.
Louis Ali. Assalamu alaikum. I grew up, well, I went to high school in the Catholic setting. I was in the nation during that time, so I knew what I was dealing with. But the other children around me didn't know what I was dealing with. And during that time, I'm not, like you said, I'm not racist, not a hater. I just didn't like integrating with them. I integrated with my people. And they integrated with them, but then I had to pull back, and then I had to, Now I go to an HBCU, and I'm proud to be at Alabama A&M, studying mechanical engineering. And also, I like to thank you because my mom finds you a big inspiration. I was riding in the car with her one time, and she goes, Joshua, Sister April told me, women see things. And ever since then, I always listen to Mama. And I've been successful ever since. Excuse me, I'm shaking because this air conditioner is right there. But the question is that how do we get young people to see the separation is good and integration is bad without revealing to them that it's a way of discerning their friends? That's my question.
Yes, sir. I would offer this. We need a good comprehension of generational purpose. And I've heard Minister Farrakhan say that each generation is born to solve the problems of its own time. And so the elder generations have to have a level of respect for the higher intelligence level. The youth are more intelligent, but we know more than them because we've lived. And so you have to marry the two, the intelligence with the experience, and they need the guidance. But we have to have a comprehension of what season we are in. And we are in the season of doing. We have to, the enemy's been very effective of giving an illusion of a material heaven that is attainable. And that has drawn our youth away from developing patience and being able to understand that you have to invest time and effort. But that's not what's being portrayed in America. America has a culture of instant gratification and disposability. I want satisfaction now, and if I'm not happy, I'm throwing it away. And that's happening to marriages. People, I don't like this, not realizing this is the ebb and flow of life. But I think we have an obligation now to economically begin to manifest some power. Because young people don't want a theoretical existence. They want real power. And we can't compete with our slave masters' children being on our knees. It's a turnoff to our youth that we're out here carrying signs. We're out here. All we know how to do is beg our tormentors to show us mercy. And I think if they see us actually stand up and fight, then that will bring them to our side. They will rush to our side because it will arouse their innate desire to be their natural selves. But they haven't seen us wage a real fight. I have to be honest, the only one you see really step into the enemy, nose to nose, toe to toe, is Minister Farrakhan. They need to see more of that. Thank you.
Can I get something for my mom? Can I get something for my mom?
Oh, you certainly can. I'll fix my headpiece. You are absolutely in the right school, in the right major. Because we need nation builders. Everybody can't just major in black studies. What you studying? Studying black people. Those of you that are old enough, because I know some young people here, remember Living Color? Yes. And my favorite skit was one of the Wayne brothers with the kufi on, all these books stacked up, and he's just dropping all these 5-syllable words, and they pull the camera back, and he's in jail. So he's showing with all of this philosophizing and high-level intelligence. You can't defeat the enemy with that alone. But thank you, Joshua. Well,
Sister April, when you mentioned black inferiority, that hit something in me because it is so big here in Birmingham, Alabama. Let me give you a couple examples. Like, it's a sister in my office, right? She, I went to ask her a question. I said, well, who this right here belongs to? They say it belongs to Neil. That goes up to Neil. Neil happened to be walking past. I said, Neil, can you take this up there with you? Don't you take it. Don't you do it. She got on me before they did. He would have taken it, you know. But then when I understood what that was, you know, because it's like we first there to make sure that we stay in our place.
Exactly.
Okay, so that kind of like get me, and then also this. Ever since I've been young, I used to live in a place called Gate City, and they'll tell you, look around, the Great White Hope will always bring us something, or else come and entertaining us. I couldn't stand that. And then so I decided, like on yesterday, I'm going to bring something for the audience. But guess what? Because of that complex thing, the white folks came and they partook. They partook of it. The black folks stayed waiting in the back. What's wrong with them? I brought this for you. You know, what's wrong with you all? And then some of them did get some later, but it's like get some later on, but let the white folks go first. And that is the biggest thing that I see here is that thinking, what can we do to help break that up? I try to invite them out, they're going to come, and then when I talk, a lot of people think I'm racist. I don't have time to be racist up and think about them folks. I'm trying to think about us. Right. And I got love. How am I going to have love for my people from hate for them? I don't care about them. I just want to see us to do. And they don't understand.
Well, I would just say this right here, this group of people, that's why we're having these town hall meetings and why the minister's saying, look, we're going to ultimately have a referendum and we're going to vote. We're going to take a national vote among ourselves. Who wants to go? Who wants to stay? Okay? Because we've exhausted the argument.
Yes.
The people that are still that way, they're really casualties of this war. That some of our people just will not come out of it or cannot come out of it. So it becomes punitive against black people who are conscious for us to keep staying. You know, it's like you have two children and one has rejected the family, and the other one's like, Mom and Dad, I'm willing to do whatever you ask, and you ignore the obedient child and just keep trying to persuade. If they want to come home, be like the prodigal son and come home. But I'm not giving any more creative energy to trying to make you love yourself. I want to put my creative energy in finding a safe haven for those of us who want to be with our own kind. So we need to start out of this networking and making sure we stay together and stay in touch with each other. And this starts one house at a time, one block at a time, where we target areas and say, we're going to take this. That's how the Mormons took over Utah. The Mormons were being persecuted. I think their leader started the religion way up northeast United States. And he was murdered, and they kept moving. They went to Ohio, they kept going. And finally, they went out to Utah, which in those days was just dust and rock. But there were people there. But they populated it. They didn't buy land. They just moved on to the land. All right? We need to look very closely. Look at Alabama. Alabama has 3% of all the black people in America. 3% of our entire black population, the 40 to 60 million, is here in Alabama. So if we among ourselves say, I'm going to move there, we have to start moving from a mindset of nation building and not just individual taste. I want this big house in this suburb. Never mind is white people. I'll be the only black person on the street. I adore, love my sister, my brother-in-law, my middle sister. She, my niece and nephew are in their 30s now. My nephew married a white woman, okay? So when he came home with her, my brother-in-law, he's blended in, okay? I mean, I love him, but he's an assimilator. And he was almost like, oh, great, But my sister, because we grew up in a very conscious home, and there was a little sadness in her that he didn't choose a black woman. And I said, but baby, look, you all moved into an all-white community. You all were one of maybe 2 or 3 black families in this huge suburb. You sent them to all-white schools where there's only a handful of blacks. I mean, don't expect him to pick one of the 2 black girls that's in the whole school. You understand what I'm saying? So it makes a difference, the foundation that we build for our children. There are babies in here. Right now, that little pretty baby, she loves herself. Trust and believe. And she's receiving love. So what type of environment are we creating for her to grow up in? God's already got her. He already has in her what she's supposed to do. We're just supposed to protect and nurture her. Not say, go work for white people. It just to this. And I'll say this lastly. Steve Harvey, my husband was telling us the other day, Steve Harvey was recently, and he's got hundreds of millions, right? He is with a friend. They're driving somewhere, and his friend is speeding. He's going over the limit, way over the limit. They get pulled over. Police come, white female cop on Steve's side of the car, white male cop on the driver's side. Steve puts his hands up on the dashboard because that's the training. That's what is being said on the media. If you get pulled over, have the lights on, put your hand up. He did that. You know what this white female cop said to him? you look suspicious to me. Why are your hands up on that dashboard like that? He said, ma'am, I don't look suspicious, and I'm not suspicious. I'm letting you see where my hands are. And that went back and forth a few times. Ultimately, she wanted his ID. It was in a bag in the back seat. She let him get it out. I don't know if his friend got a ticket or not, but they drove away. But that bothered him to the point he's talking about it on the air. But what does it say? You can't earn enough money. You can't get enough degrees. You can't have enough stature. Henry Louis Gates, Harvard professor, will tell you that. He's crippled and a professor, and still gets a white woman. There's a nigga going in the door. There's a nigga sitting in Starbucks. Our presence is a crime in America. And so we have to just shut down on them, beloved. Be polite, be cordial, but don't try to persuade. And of course, my nephew, who to me is one of the sweetest people on earth, she left him. She left him. Okay? And I know it inside, I was like, but that's not to be hateful. But he put melanin in you for a reason. He put the zebras in a herd. Zebras don't send baby zebra. Go over to that lion pride and let them educate you. But be very careful because you're their favorite food. But that's what we do. They see us as a commodity, as something to buy and sell, way before they were separating Mexican children from their parents. They were snatching our babies out of our arms and selling them. They are kidnappers. They are sexual predators. Some of these immigrant children will never see their parents again. That's 2018. All right? So it's time to close ranks. It's time to circle the wagons. That's what time it is.
Sister Ava, Brother Tremont, Brother Lewis.
Yes, sir. Alaikum salam.
I wanted to comment on what Brother Lewis was talking about as far as why black men are not as territorial or as strong as they used to be. Also, I want to comment about our community as far as protecting our community. You know, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said you cannot protect what you can't control.
Come on.
And also you can't control that which you are not controlling the finances. So when they took our black businesses out of our community and black men could not provide for their families, then we had no sense of ownership of our community. As well, our black woman does not respect us as she used to because of it. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us to do for self. That's one of the reasons he told us to do for self, because you cannot control anything that you are not really financially in control of. Okay. The other thing is, as far as our young people, the brother talked about education. If we don't educate our own, then we can't put the true value of self in our children, because you got to be careful what you teach them. You know, don't say this in school, but you say it at home and all of that. When I came up in Montgomery, Alabama, you know, I'm not quite as old, but I grew up in the 60s. But it's still, my schools in the elementary and junior high were not integrated. It was still black.
Right.
And so those black teachers could tell you straight up, look, you're going to have to be twice as smart, or twice as hard as white people.
That's right.
And these white people don't care nothing about you. They used to tell you straight up.
In class.
In class. So you understood that. So when I got to college, I understood what I was dealing with. And so what I want to say is, as men, we got to start back doing for self, protecting our community. Then we can protect our women and our children. And I want to say that when we were, me and my wife decided not to go back to the white man's job when we first started having children. Now we got 6. 3 boys, 3 girls. But she decided we start our own school without even know anything about students, really. To get any praise, I'm just saying that because of the teaching on Elijah Muhammad, we didn't have a school, so we said we just got started. And so just on faith, we did that, and the community responded, and we were able to teach young black people the knowledge of self without hindrance. We was able to have a final call without hindrance. And so after we moved from Tennessee back to Alabama, we didn't have that, so my wife decided to homeschool. And so from that, you know, I have my oldest son just graduated. He's a civil engineer. My second oldest son is here with me. He just graduated. He's a mechanical engineer. I have a daughter who's majored in architecture. I have another one that wants to go to med school. And I got two young ones at home. He wants to be an engineer. My point of it is, because she was able to control them, they never saw me, especially younger, they never saw me working for the white man. Even when we was in financial strain, I made sure I didn't go back to the white man's job because I wanted to make them see that we could do it. And so my wife, so if our young people, by the time they get to college, if they got that strength of who they are, then they won't go astray. You know, so I'm just saying that as black men, we got to step up, and after we do that with our family, we can start spreading out in our communities. And like the sister said, we can control our own community. We got all the skills that we need. We just got to get together and sacrifice.
Exactly.
You know, we got to be willing to give up this, what do you call it, caramel macchiato.
That's real, that's real.
And we got to open up our own coffee shops. And then we can congregate together, and I mean, we can do it. I really feel the spirit in the room, and I know it's time, but I'm just saying, as black men, we got to get up, and we got to become men again.
You know, what brother said was just so powerful, you know, really powerful. And I remember once on Dr. Ava Muhammad's show, we talked about black gentrification, and Dr. Ava Muhammad actually said it years ago, following the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, that we have to begin a purpose black-driven life, so to speak, and start moving in closer proximity to one another.
That's right.
With the thought, we're going to watch each other's houses.
Right.
Now, my family came from Mississippi. And after the Civil War, black people began to take sections of land. If my memory serves me well, I think a section of land is about 600 acres after the homestead exemption plan. They were very land literate. And they fenced this land off. And you own one section of it, but you live next to your cousin. You live down the street from your uncle. And all of them grouped together like that. And they didn't have Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff that we have now. We're in the Nation of Islam, and we have a pledge card. I hadn't seen it for a while, but we need to take it out and read what I pledged that. So if we start becoming more land literate, doing what our Minister Sharif and other believers are doing, moving in close proximity to one another. I do infrastructure work. If the buildings are no good, then we'll come and tear them down.
That's right.
And build nice houses. Right. I say on Facebook sometimes, skills pay the bills. Right. Well, how do you learn a trade? You learn a trade from your uncle, from your grandfather, from your cousin. We get these little boys. See, Brother Horatio really is not a normal engineer, because we don't have a holistic approach toward work anymore. We have a very individualistic, nationalistic, non-holistic approach to work. And I want to give an example. I know these young men. When his dad would dig footings for buildings, he would make them get out there and work. That's an old Southern tradition, the way we handle manhood. You're talking about being territorial. You start out with your little boys. Do not let no little black boy stay in the house on the couch with his mother. Get that little boy. And you take him to work with you to see how you interact with these crackers, white folk. He got to see you dealing, doing business. My grandfather was in business, and he was taking his money, donating it to the freedom schools and the supper clubs, and he was murdered in Mississippi in 1964. But my father always ran a business, and he was stern. He whipped us. I don't know if people whip their children anymore, but he whipped the hell out of you if you broke his law. You understand? This is the way men are. But by the same token, no pedophile or molester could last in his proximity. So if you know somebody who's molesting a child, you do and take the appropriate action, then women will begin to respect us again. So we have to become more territorial and claim a territory. And then Dr. Ava talked about homeowners association. If you go in all these white communities, there are homeowners associations. And it's really racism written in code. We should have our own homeowners associations predicated on what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has given us in the self-improvement study guides. We don't want people up and down the street practicing filth and indecency. And so these town hall meetings, and really, you can't recycle the black dollar under integration except you have the discipline of the Muslims. And it's going to require us actually moving into close proximity with one another and beginning, last point, in all of America, customer service has gone down the tubes. We really, when we join the nation, we learn to, some of us learn to say yes sir, no ma'am, and treat one another with respect. I don't care if you have a post or you don't have a post. It's very important that we begin to treat each other with manners and respect, and people will want to do business with you and practice BE. Black excellence. I don't advertise my business in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because I am the best at what I do. And I just say it. I'm being honest about it. I'm good. If I say I'm pouring 6 inches of concrete, it's 6 inches. I won't pour 4.5. And because of that, even white people who know what you believe as a Muslim, they'll call you and say, Mr. Muhammad, I need your engineering firm. I need Muhammad as my doctor, my lawyer, because you're practicing black excellence. But she's been saying it for years that we should move into closer proximity.
Assalamu alaikum. I would like to say thank you for having this, Brother Tremont. Thank you, Brother Lewis, for setting it up. And thank you so much, Sister Ava Muhammad. Today I wanted to ask you about Black Girl Magic. I wanted to say, first of all, I know several women who are across the street rallying for immigrant families, and they invited me. Second, we have downtown in Sheridan, Birmingham, several black women elective officers throughout the country meeting. And thirdly, we had a sister here named Sister Stephanie Muhammad who ran for office in Jefferson County, the sister who just spoke. And she earned close to 300, if I'm incorrect, please correct me, close to 300,000 votes. Okay, say it again, sister. 3,408 votes, Jefferson County. And I wanted to say, what do you think is the role of the black woman in bringing about this separation, and the role of the black woman in creating and building our new nation? How do you feel?
That's excellent. The woman is the first teacher. I always use the sci-fi horror movie Aliens as an illustration of something. Those of you that have seen that film, where some people come from Earth to this asteroid or planet, and they're being attacked by these insect-like creatures, and they get into a battle with them, they keep killing them. And they keep killing them, and they keep popping up. And finally, one of them says, these things are coming out of eggs. We gotta find who is laying these eggs and kill what's laying these eggs. And they found the queen alien and killed her, okay? Behind every vicious, deadly, lethal, greedy, sexual predator, violent white male is a white female. Okay? The real viciousness in white people is coming through the womb of the white female, and she nurses her babies to subdue and dominate black people. Okay? The other end of that spectrum, and the converse to that, should be the black woman and is the black woman.
Right.
You know, even listening to the brothers talk about protection, and as my brother said about he and his wife working in a partnership, he works for himself and she homeschools the children, because many black men are becoming more enamored of white females because we, black women, have bought into the illusion created by the white man that his woman is desirable.
Right.
She's not the one who's desirable. That's why none of us in here are as black as we originally were. Even those of you that think you're dark-skinned, you wait till you go to Kenya. My husband and I went to Aswan, Egypt, on the border of the Sudan. You haven't seen black. We're talking black as in triple darkness space with silky hair and pretty white teeth black. A real black person is unnerving to a Caucasian who is melanin challenged. But the pride in self and the beauty of self comes from the mother. So if a black male is reared by a black woman who's trying to look white and conduct herself like a white female, which is savage, sexually promiscuous, because that's not our nature as black women. We're the mother of civilization. We are refined. We don't chase men. They seek our hand in courtship and marriage, because we're the mother of civilization. We're the queen. Every man who's his natural self wants a black woman to be his mate. But when we start conducting ourselves like the maid female, then he says, well, I'll just go on and get a white woman. You need to think about that. Because with her being pushed on our man as the standard of beauty, yet and still she's getting butt injections, living in the tanning salon, getting shots in her lips so that she'll have a mouth, and so on and so on. And lastly, as Hannibal Lecter said, you covet what you see every day. I grew up around black men who were husbands, fathers, and breadwinners, starting with my dad, my father, who I adore to this day. He passed away decades ago, and I think about him every day. And he is the reason I adore the black man. There's not enough money on this earth. When I was in law school, white men were coming at me night and day. And I was, you better back up. One of them asked me out for a date. I said, what did you say to me? I was appalled. You know, what did I do that would make you think you could approach me? are our sons and our daughters to be. So the role of the black woman in separation, she should be saying to her womb, we got to get out of here. It is time to leave. And once the woman is focused on us, and it's the woman that makes the demands. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it is the nature of the female to demand good treatment. I can't live like this. I need another sofa. I need another refrigerator. I need another house. No, I'm not going to drive all night and sleep in the car. We're going to check in to a nice hotel. So anyway, I'm on the soapbox now. But all that to say, yes, the black woman has a role.
Especially with the work that the brother does here and then the brother that do in Atlanta. I'm kind of like the brother who was over here because when I first came into the knowledge of self, I was raised in the church like most of us are.
Yes, sir.
And I think a lot of us lose sight of how much like the final call and what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was teaching, because a lot of our black leaders and stuff, they have been under attack. I mean, there's a lot of things that they do, from Marcus Garvey to, I mean, the list is, I mean, Elijah Muhammad. Even we got over in my lifetime. I had a chance to see the time period of how Minister Farrakhan was attacked, and I used to see you and open up the final call. You know, even though we had these different presidents and leaders, that these people so-called, you know, white leadership before, you know, Barack Obama, I used to be able to open up the final call and see our people standing up for us in the final call. So I commend you guys for doing that. I'm working on a documentary right now, and it deals with plausible deniability, and it's focused on Birmingham. And as I interview different people, I noticed that you have the generation of who they call the civil rights or the foot soldiers who are basically running the city now, along with younger folk. And some of them wanted simple things like just to be able to have equal rights and stuff like that. But I was born here and I came back here and I just moved over from Atlanta. But I noticed there is a climate in this city where a lot of black people are like, we have to fight, y'all treat us like trash, and we don't want you to come over here and take our city back. Because there's a campaign right now for a lot of people from the suburbs to come and take Birmingham. So a lot of the students, a lot of the children who walked out of those schools are running the governments and stuff here in Birmingham. But and you see them have a distaste for white supremacy in Birmingham, but you still have that generation or that missing gap of people who still see themselves as inferior to the whites.
Yes.
So I understand that you're a very, very powerful teacher, and I've read a lot of teaching from a lot of different people. So one of the problems that we lack as a people is the proper distribution of our information. I think we need to work on that a lot. And I got a lot of my information from final calls coming up, you know, younger up to now. And I think we need to still keep focusing on the distribution of our information, because a lot of times we get misinformation.
Yes. Thank you for that insight. Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask because I know I hear a lot about, you know, people who growed up and they had their fathers in their lives and they were good fathers and role models. But how about the ones who never had their fathers in their lives?
Yes, sir.
How about the ones who father was on cocaine or crack or dope? How about the ones that probably was in prison and they never knew their fathers? They was around their fathers. How can a person that never knew a father, never around their father, always growed up around female role models, can learn how to become a real and true man in this day and time?
Excellent.
Great question. That's a huge problem in our community because our men are becoming effeminized. Matter of fact, they have become effeminized. So Minister Farrakhan said last November that the Nation of Islam is the last force that is fighting against the effeminization of the black male. So I say that you should join the Nation of Islam. I didn't say that wrong. See, it's time out for going around the bush. There is no greater alternative for our people. And we're just going to tell you straight up now that you should join the Nation of Islam. See, listen, you think that you have to change all of this and change all of that. Some you do have to change. However, you should come and try because you might like it. So when you take a young man and there's no father in the house and he is looking at his mom and the mom makes it happen because the black woman has been on the front lines for the last 400 years. I was raised by a mother, an aunt, a grandmother. I have 3 daughters. So we have great respect for the black woman and the strength of the black woman. But when you take a young male child and he sees mom making it happen, then when he grows up, then he's still looking for a female to make it happen. And so instead of marrying a husband, she's marrying an older son. And sometimes, sisters, you don't have to bear witness too loud, please, especially if your significant other is here. But I know that you say, man, it seems like I'm raising another boy. But that's because of how this enemy has us in our communities. And by the same token, when you have a young female and she grows up in a house without a father and she sees mom making it happen, then she grows up and feels like I got to make it happen. And then she really shuns a man and say, what do I need a man for what? I can make this happen by myself. But we got to realize we need each other. There is no such thing as the black man without the black woman. There's no such thing as the black woman without the black man. We are not enemies of each other. So we have to come back together. And the only place that's teaching the real nature of the black woman and the real nature of the black man so that we can be successful is the Nation of Islam. So you should get a card on the way out and we'll give you some more information. This will be our last 3 questions for the sake of time. Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, we love them and we thank them for allowing us the time to be in here. And they love us as long as we get out by 6. So we want to make sure that we ask our questions in a succinct manner, and this will be our last 3 because we have some announcements to give you right after. So Ms. Pat Bell, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Minister Tremont and Dr. Ava, for coming to our city. Thank you for allowing me to be a special guest tonight. I am a good Pentecostal. I grew up good Baptist, and for you to welcome me in like this, I feel honored. And I want you to know that one of the reasons I'm always around is when we need strong men, we have to come to you. So we have to come to you. I know that the bishop presiding of the Church of God in Christ would be disappointed with me as his daughter tonight. But I'm saying to the bishop that oftentimes I have to leave my Pentecostal grounds to come over to the nation. Because you're talking about the things that those of us who speak in tongues ought to be talking about. And standing up and doing for ourselves. And I just want to share with you on the message of separation. I've been trying to understand what your position was on that. I want to say that I believe that in the push towards separation, you will have to be the leaders. The rest of us will have to follow you because you have the discipline. I have to honestly say, we've been taught to fast and pray in the Pentecostal church as devout fasting. We've been taught to do many of the things that you're teaching. We do not have the discipline to start a nation. But if you lead the way, those of us who know how to love our black selves, we will join you.
was talking to, I believe it was DJ Envy, about the importance of loving the black woman. And DJ Envy was giving the example of, you know, well, my son, he might like a white girl because we're in this neighborhood, and, you know, and Dr. Umar was telling him that that's the biggest display of self-love when you marry, you know, your own woman. You have to be the one to tell your son, no, this is why we love our own women. And the brother put the video up, and he said, if any of my black friends agree with this type of foolishness, I'm deleting you immediately. And the first person to comment was a Jewish man that I guess is his friend. And he was like, but you know, Seville, that's not wrong. Like, I'm Jewish, and we teach our men to marry Jewish women. And the people that I know around me, Arabs or whatever, they teach their men to marry their own women. And he said, now that I think of it, the only friends I have that are willing to marry other people are my black friends. And he was like, well, I would delete you, but I know that that's your religion because you're Jewish, so that's different. It's not based on color. And so I figured, well, if I'm going to get kicked off somebody's page, I guess this would be the time. And I commented and I said, you know, it does something to me as a black woman to know that you have children by a black woman and that you are the number one example for your black boys, to know that oftentimes we're on the front lines fighting for our men. And I mean, we go hard, you know, when it comes to their injustice. And I said, but to see a black man and to see how many black men agreed with him and how many white women agreed with him, it kind of did something to me for a minute, because I was like, dang, we fight so hard for just the love that we have of black men, but to see you agree and go so hard with another black man on being so open and available to white women, I said, it's disheartening, and I really feel some type of way. And it was unbelievable the number of sisters that were agreeing and loving and liking my posts and inboxing saying thank you. But to compare the number of black women that were agreeing with me and loving the comment versus the number of black men who were agreeing and justifying and loving, or the option of being able to be with a white woman, I was just like, I didn't really know how to process it. So that's what I thought about. Thank
you. You know, again, many of our people, sadly, because of the decades of innovation, have become the victims of an illusion. And as someone brought up earlier, until we establish economic self-sufficiency, this is going to be a problem, because most human beings are not engaged in self-examination, self-analysis, and self-correction as they could be if they were to partake of Minister Farrakhan's self-improvement course. And so we tend to respond from a very superficial, external, emotion-driven place, and white people are, by all appearances, empowered. And black people, by all appearances, are powerless. And it's not human nature to want to join with the loser in any battle. You want to be with the winner. And so some generation, and we run the gamut here, there's babies to seniors in here, we have to make this move now. That's right. Master Fard Muhammad, the great Mahdi, the teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, said the nation of Islam would never be a mass movement. And it's amazing, the beautiful declaration of our beloved sister from the Pentecostal Church, that if you take the point and use your discipline to begin the move toward self-independence, we will follow. And that's a true universal principle that's going to apply all the way through this. The majority of our people can't accept the vision without seeing some evidence of it in their reality. Everybody in this room is special because you're able to capture a vision. Because there's nothing in our immediate reality that confirms that all that we're talking about is real. But the Quran says you have to have belief in the unseen. Unseen doesn't mean unreal. He said gravity is real. You don't see it, but if you walk off the top of this building, you will experience gravity. Okay? And so the will of God is real, but most people just don't have the capability at this stage to be able to perceive it. So we have a duty, since we are blessed to capture that vision, we have a duty to the remainder of our people to manifest that reality. And it won't take a lot. Just a little model of a Wakanda.
That's right.
Okay? The one thing that film did is give our people a visual feast of what it would be like to be able to live unencumbered and without the intrusiveness of white folks. And it reminded them their sleeping DNA, yes, we can self-govern. Yes, we are capable of high technology. And we do not need to be around white people to be satisfied. Our parents on the plantation did not want to have lunch with white people. They wanted to get as far away from them as possible. It's only this recent 50-year-old tactic of integration that has made a lot of our brothers like that. Now, some of them are gone. They're gone. It's a black outer shell occupied by Caucasian mentality. But all wars have casualties. And I'm telling us, going forward today, stop giving away creative juice on persuading people that they've got sufficient information, sufficient observation to know what time it is. Okay? And so you and I need to start working on making this a reality for those of us that want it.
Peace to the gods of the earth. I have like a two-part question. Dr. Claude Anderson, he talks about vertical segregation and being like from Birmingham, north side of Birmingham, and knowing about the contamination and what's going on with the water, and you look at Flint, Michigan, and you look at other areas where our people are, the majority. I understand owning land and owning your own business and working for yourself, but if you can't grow the food because it's contaminated, and you can't drink the water, because it's contaminated, even if we were to reach, the vertical segregation where our elites could deal with their elites, how do we protect ourselves? It's like no one is addressing defense, protecting ourselves, except for the nation. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to get pat down. Help. You feel me? But my family is Christian, so it's like I'm always the angry black man whenever I try to speak to them. So I really just leave that alone. But my daughter is in her sophomore year at UAB, and I swear she come home and she looks at me like I'm the angry black man, and I'm kind of butterfly, Sister Ava. I really came to see you, you know what I'm saying? And I wish I could have brought her with me. And it's like Dr. Phil Valentine, we talk about predictive programming. And I see the music, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, I see them taking my daughter. And I ain't no scary dude, you feel me? I ain't raised her with that, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know what I mean? I rightly schooled her. So she kind of playing a dangerous game. She got her a little boyfriend, and his mama is an enabler. So I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I need some help. If I need to wait and talk to you personally, you know what I'm saying? And she running the show over there. she's like doing what I taught her to do, but I ain't teach her to do it like that. You know what I'm saying? I want her to be a proud, strong black woman, but don't go and do to us what women do to us. You feel me? I don't want you, because I'm going to be mad at you. I'm trying not to get mad at her now. You see what I'm saying? Because it took me so long to find a female that I could love, because I've been tricked by every female in my family. You see what I'm saying? And just because I don't fit. I'm sorry.
Dr. Ada Muhammad's books are going to be available. She'll respond. Maybe you can ask her. Just be mindful about time. We feel you, brother. Only the leader will respond. If not, Minister Tremaine, you can come up with this close.
The question was, how can we get people of different religions to stop conflicting what's going on in somebody's household when things is going right? Just because you don't feel that, this person had their household in order until you came in with your ideologies that you got from some Europeans, for real. You know what I mean? And that's my question.
Good question.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Right. That's an excellent way to end. There's a long answer and a short answer. For the long answer, I want to ask you all, would you honor us tomorrow with your presence at Muhammad Mosque number 69? Because we're going to do part 2. And you're going to hear a lecture from Sister Minister Ava called A Light-Giving Sun, part 2. She did the first part in Chicago a few weeks ago, and it was webcast all around the country. And she has chosen the great city of not good city, the great city. It's a difference. The great city of Birmingham to do part 2. And I just want to ask you all, would you come to 521 Tuscaloosa Avenue tomorrow at 10 o'clock and honor us with your presence? My brother, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, gave us something called the 9 ministries. And one of them is a ministry of defense. This is non-religious. It does not matter what your religion is, but these 9 ministries are the building blocks to build our communities. And we'll give you more information about that this evening as well as tomorrow. But I want to let you all know that Sister Dr. Ava's books are for sale right outside the door. Please support her as she travels around the country, making the minister's word bond and educating our people, giving us real knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that will lead to power. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
So at this point, we're going to bring up our Brother William, who's going to close us out with charity. While he's doing that, he's going to do announcements as well. He's going to have a marathon session. Brother William, meaning 5 to 7 minutes. Now, don't y'all get quiet and don't run away, because we all good when we talk about revolution. Until we start talking about money. So don't leave here and give your money to the white man, the same people we're talking about. No, support those that's trying to build the community. Let's hear it for Brother William Muhammad. And let's thank Sister Minister Ava Muhammad. Let's thank our regional minister, Minister Sharif Muhammad, for coming over, and the entire staff. Go ahead, Brother William.
All right, this is time for your test. I told Sister Secretary going to get quiet in here in a minute. Sister Secretary said we need $2,000. And this is the time when we look at what we believed in and said that we have to do economic sacrifice. Minister Sharif said when you do for self, you are separated. If we're talking about separation, we have to do for self. So the Secretary did not want me to hold you, and Student Minister Tremont gave me 7 minutes.
That's right.
Put a muzzle on the charity bulldog. But, so what we need to do is, I ain't got a lot of time. I can't preach to you.
That's right.
I can't preach it out of you today. We just got to come on with it. So we're going to use mathematics.
Okay.
Because mathematics